If you're going to study openings and opening traps, the fried liver attack is a great place to start. The plan is very direct, and it allows you to learn some ideas that go along with that plan of direct attack against your opponent. So let's have a look at these opening moves of the fried liver attack. First of all, this game is a double king pawn game, also called the open game when you play e4, e5. And now, bishop c4 is the Italian game. If we went to b5, it's the Spanish game, or Ruy Lopez. At this point, black has a few options. If they play knight to f6, then this is the two knights defense. It blocks black's queen from guarding g5, so now your knight can jump up to that square. And they need to do something about your attack on f7. You have two pieces attacking. If they just play d6, of course you're going to take with a knight, forking their queen and rook. They move the queen, you take the rook. If they play queen e7, now you'll take with the bishop, since there's no fork when the knight captures, check, and retreat the bishop to a protected square, threatening to jump the knight in there for the fork. They'll probably move the king back. And now, since they're threatening h6 to drive your knight away, which is the guardian of your e-pawn, you'll need to play d3 to protect your e-pawn. But let's go back and see what happens in this main line. So after knight f6, we play knight g5, and now d5 to block your bishop from attacking that pawn on f7. So you capture with the pawn. Today we're going to be looking at what happens when the knight captures at d5. But first, the main line, actually the line that's going to be played by players that are rated over 1,000, have had some coaching, have looked through some books. They might play knight to a5. And if this happens, you should know that you should play check, capture, capture, and then retreat the bishop to an odd square, d3, where it's ready to support the knight after it gets chased by the h-pawn. But today's lesson is about what happens when we play e takes d5 and the knight captures at d5. So now we could play d4, but this leads to a lot of complicated variations. And so instead we want to play a more direct line, a line that maybe is not as good as the computer says. The computer likes d4 a little bit better. But this is the main idea behind the fried liver attack, is that our knight captures at f7, sacrificing itself to draw the king out, attract him to that square where he's going to walk into a pin. Let's go back to our fantastic drawing by Paul Baumann, in which Paul shows us that king is attracted to that square. The knight captures, says, "Hey king, better come and get me. I just took your pawn. Next I'll get your queen or rook." And the king's like, "I hate to come out, but I feel that I must." And the bishop, of course, is very happy. The black knight is not so happy. He's captured that pawn, but now he's pinned suddenly. And the bishop is happy that the king is walking right into that pin. And with the king exposed on the f-file, the queen is going to be able to jump out there, check the king, and attack that pinned knight on d5 as well. And in contrast to the black king, the white king is going to be nice and safe. He might castle soon, and then even let the rook join the party. But remember, the main idea of this whole fried liver attack, is that you're going to make that sacrifice at f7 and get your opponent to eat the knight. Let's get back to the game itself and have a look at what happens in the fried liver attack. So the king captures at f7. He walks right into that pin. And of course, here comes the queen to check him when he's exposed. Now, first of all, if he goes back, if he just runs back to the square, well, then we get to capture our piece back. We have a little threat. Your opponent might ignore it and then allow a checkmate. But what if they fight us and the king comes out to e6? Now he's walked into this pin, and we need to put pressure on that knight. So knight to c3. And black has a couple of options on how to add another protector to that knight at d5. They could play knight back to e7, but now they're blocking all their pieces in, and so we want to do the opposite and open up the center with d4. And that creates open lines for our pieces. This check will push black's king either away from protecting the knight or in front of the queen's protection of the knight, and we get to take our piece back with interest. So instead, when we play our knight out to c3, black's more likely going to play their knight up here and attack this pawn. Now they're protecting their knight and threatening to take at c2. If we chase, then they can capture. Now Alexei Shirov, a grandmaster, He got away with it in 2014. We'll have a look at that game in the challenge level video for the fried liver attack. But for us mere mortals who are not grandmasters, we need to play something perhaps a little tamer. And in this case, we're going to make a move with our queen that protects c2 while at the same time pinning our opponent's e-pawn. And black has a little problem now, because now we have 3 attackers on this knight, and they have 3 defenders. We can't add another attacker, but what we can do is chase away their knight with a3, and that's coming next. And now they need to add an extra defender to their knight at d5. So they play c6, we chase them anyway. Now we put pressure on that pawn in the center, and at some point your opponent's going to make a mistake. They're walking a tightrope here. Every single move they make has to be perfect. Their best move right now is to bring the knight back to c7 to guard their knight at d5. If they instead play bishop out to protect their e-pawn, now they block their queen from guarding the knight. And we can capture here, the pawn takes back, queen takes, and now the king could walk back to d7, walking into this pin. We capture in, for example, a table mate. Queen takes d6, checkmate. Table mate's when it's like an in-your-face checkmate that's not against a wall. He's blocked by his own pieces going backwards. Or if he goes to e7, guess what? A sideways table mate to finish off the job. All right, I think it's a good idea to watch this video again. Always check out those opening videos over and over again until you're very comfortable with them, and then go play them in games online and get some practice with your friends. All right, that's it for the fried liver attack. I'll check you later.